Yes.
Good.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks for joining, Becky, and glad to have you on my show, Moments with Masters.
Thank you. I'm so happy about this.
Thank you so much. And before we start to have this conversation, I have a small introduction for my audience. Our guest for the day has created many roles and identities in her life, and they reinforce who she's being and continuously evolving. A lifelong learner on a path of spiritual growth and humanitarian causes is a thread woven into this day. As a co-founder of Robbins Research International and first wife of Tony Robbins, she was a pioneer in the personal development business and expanded that into a brand with a global reach of over 14 years that is still thriving today. She describes her life as cyclical, and after leaving Robbins Research International, she embarked on an art career with her current series of original oil paintings that are her signature and embody the divine as she is influenced in the process. Her prints and originals are collected around the world, and she lives in California. Welcome, Becky.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
It's a privilege for me to be part of me to be in India right now.
Yes, that's fantastic to have you with us. Becky, you tell me, I don't bring an agenda to this conversation, and let's see where it goes. And
Perfect. I like that.
fantastic, because I always, recently you must have seen I had a conversation with Alok, and it's the same way. I would like, there are two parts of the two sides of a story. One is the story, and the other side is the one who created the story. And I would love to listen from you about the you who created your story.
Wow. I think we are all storytellers. All of us are storytellers. And it depends on the perspective that we have. The story is coming through some kind of a filter. And I think it's based on many things. It's based on your current environment, your past environment, your programming from childhood, many things like that. Who is telling my story right now is the question. I am a meditator, and I feel like one of the most important things in my life is to expand myself in every way, and so that less ego, more heart is coming through. So what I'm hoping that on a regular basis, my heart is telling my story, and that it serves me and serves others in the process.
Becky, at many points in life, we get to a point where we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust that everything is working right for us. And we have those phases in life where we go back to that self, where, to the point where we start recreating ourselves. And that phase of life, I had many such phases in my life. And I know how important it is for everybody who's listening to be in alignment inside for that story to go on. I would like to listen from you, your experience of resilience, which brings you to who you are today.
You said so many things that I want to remark about. One thing that's been really helpful for me, especially in my work with the master Steve Hardison, is realizing that perhaps something's not happening to me, but for me. And you said that earlier on, that things are happening for us. That's such a huge shift in how you see the world. If you can see it that way, then you're not a victim of what happened. But and sometimes it takes time, to get down the road far enough where you can look back and say like, wow, that actually happened for me. My life, when you're reading my intro, I say that my life is cyclical because it's like it feels to me, and my history's proven this, I have like the beginnings and endings, and then something shifts, and that's a whole nother beginning. Like, like that was like, I was in the personal development business with my former husband for 14 years. And then when it was over, it was like over. It's like suddenly over, which can be hard to navigate through something that's suddenly over. And give myself time to go through the process of grieving, because there's a grief of like what was or what could have been or what should have been. And then also a time of forgiveness of myself, rather than, focusing on what happened to me, like what happened for me and what part did I play. I know that's a tricky thing to talk about, forgiving yourself, because you're thinking like, I'm not the bad guy, or I'm not the one who caused, some dilemma to happen. But if you can forgive yourself for judging yourself as being inadequate, or judging yourself as not enough, or judging yourself as not capable, all of those things are helpful to get to the next phase of your life, the next new version, like this version of being Becky. Even something simple like my art. I was doing a whole different kind of art before I started doing this. And suddenly one day, I just wasn't doing that anymore. I saw something that, an idea from someone, and I was interested in it, and I played around with it. And all of a sudden, everything started to change. And now this is what I do. And it's sometimes scary for me, because I think like, oh my gosh, I love what I'm doing right now. But like at the end of my last painting that I finished, which these take almost a year to do, or sometimes a year to do them, and I wasn't sure it was finished, and is this done? I started second guessing myself, and then the fear came like, oh my gosh, maybe this is the end of this series, and if it is, I have no idea what's going to be next. So there's faith, and there's believing in yourself, and allowing yourself some space to get into the next phase of what's going to happen. Lots of things like that.
Thank you so much, Becky. And listening to this from you is something different. It has something different about itself from listening to it from somebody else, because you were associated with a business which was in the business of changing lives. And you must have done massive work in personal development. You must have been in that. You were there actively involved in that. You created that. And so you had lots of experience and knowledge of what it is like. And then when you get into a situation where you need to apply that to yourself, and as you said, you come to a point where you go through that self-forgiveness. But what was then the relation of your experience in the business of personal development? How did it help you? Did it really help you? Or was a shift required in your perspective to recreate yourself or who you are being?
Wow, these are such great questions, Ranjan. Amazing. You're causing me to think about that too. Of course, in the beginning, I was, and throughout the experience of that, I think I got there right when I needed it. I needed to walk on fire and show myself that it was possible for me to do anything. I needed to do that, and I believed that helped people, and it does help people. And I think always when you're involved in a business like this, I mean, you could be in a retail clothing business, and it's a bit different. But when the subject matter is something that I believe, for my own integrity, that I need to live that stuff that I'm learning, then and it becomes a whole part of you. And yes, I was there from the very, very beginning. I mean, there had been one seminar event when I met Tony, and I thought that he could change the world, because I think that information was so powerful and something that I'd never been a part of before. So to take that from zero and make it into a global empire, you know, it happened over a period of time. And also, before I even knew about him or knew about that whole business, I'd been on my own path of being a seeker. Like, okay, like what are I've studied, I was learning about who you're being, not at the level now of this, but I knew at least that got me through the rough bits. That got me through the rough bits. Like, I used to have this mantra that I would say in my mind when things were tough, and I would remember this and say it. It was a book written by Ernest Holmes, who started something long ago called The Science of Mind. And I would repeat to myself, like, I am that which thou art, and thou art that which I am, referring to the Almighty. I am that which thou art, and thou art that which I am. And I would say that over and over again when things got tougher. I'd get myself into a situation and feel like, okay, how am I going to get on the other side of this? And the second part of your question was that there's a point at which the soul of me, or the being of me, or something knew that some part of me knew that it was time for that to be done. And fortunately, with my past spiritual path that I'd been traveling, and I mean, it's been like, I don't know, a long, long time until I found Steve Hardison and all of this kind of thing is a whole brand new version of, I think it's the most elevated version of consciousness, and how you recreate who you're going to be from here on out. And I'm not a kid, you know, I have kids, and my kids have kids, and it's amazing that at this particular time in my life is this huge expansion of who I believe that I am and will be. It's amazing.
Fantastic. Becky, how has this shift within shifted your experience of life, and how has that shifted your relationships with with your kids, or with your friends, or your relationship to life, and your relationship with your new passion for art and your business?
Your questions are like an onion. They just keep having a layer and a layer and a layer. Amazing. I'm staying with you though. The shift, I think, the big shift that I'm noticing are things are coming to me. Opportunities are coming to me. You called me and said, would you come to India? You called me and said, would you be on my show? I mean, and so many things are happening like that are coming to me. And now I'm looking at those things, like Steve had been saying, like simplicity, Becky, like don't make your life complicated. You already did complicated. Now you need to do simplicity. Things are just coming in. So that's one thing that's a big difference. How I am with people. I mean, of course, when you find something that is so beneficial to you, you want to tell the world, you want to sing it from the rooftops, and everybody needs to do what you're doing. And I wish people would get it. And, and everybody in their due time, just like for me, it wasn't, it all came to me at the exact right time, came for me at the right time, including the book of being and the ultimate coach that it came to me when I was recovering from knee surgery, and a friend brought it with her, and she was doing it and talking about it, and thought, well, I want some of that. So the way it's affecting me in my life now is that I think my kids are sensing a different kind of peace that I have, a peacefulness around them, and I'm being different with them. I'm not the judging part, they're all wonderful, wonderful people and wonderful grandchildren and all of that. And I'm not trying to tell them what to do. And, I'm just enjoying them. And I have a phrase in my document that I borrowed from Steve's, which is, I am not no one is worthy of my judgment and everyone's worthy of my love. And that, yeah, and that comes to me a lot during, I live in California and have to drive on, I call it the anarchy of the freeways right now, because it's just, people are driving crazy. And I don't know about compared to India, but I know compared to here, it's pretty crazy. And so, but it's like, okay, calm down, go with the flow. So less things are rattling me. You asked me about my art was changing. After writing my document, creating it, which is the long process that you go through to do that, and there's no formula and there's no quick fix to that. It was beautiful in the process. And Steve said to me, as a possibility, what I'd love for you to do is stop doing the painting that you're doing right now and take that down and start doing a new painting. He said, like, see the painting right there? And he pointed in his office to his little sanctuary to a painting that was like this big. Well, behind me, you can see mine are like this big. And so that I was quite far along in the process of my other one. And I thought, like, wow, I was like interrupting the flow and all of that. But I said yes to that. So that's interesting to see what's going to happen with that, because I'm in a zone of pure faith, because I have no idea. It's like stepping off the edge, because he said it's probably going to be different than anything you've ever done. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm in that zone of like, okay, I'm just going to trust. So I think that's part of where I am right now, is not forcing anything and just trusting that, and who I'm being is something's going out from inside out that's creating everything coming to me right now.
Beautiful. This happened about 2 years ago with me when I read this Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And probably from the day I read that book, I completed that book, last 3 years have just been a flow. I've stopped forcing myself through the moment, and in fact, I fell back into the moment. And life has been different. And then my work with Michael Neal, and then finally, my experience with the ultimate coach. This changed my life, and I know that my kids are experiencing me differently, and my dad is loving to have conversations with me. My daughter loves me more, and I love myself more. I'm enjoying myself. See, there was a time, I was busy running from here to there. I wanted to, make that big achievement and do this and do that. And now it's like, I know, I trust that nature will unfold through me and through the moment. So I'm just like, okay, when I need something, I'll be given. When I need an idea, it will appear. And I now have like this inner compass. The moment I am in that achiever mindset, I know it now. And then I just ease myself back into that moment. From a time when even meditation was an achievement for me, now even being alone for a few moments is equivalent to the effect of 3 hours of meditation. So that's the effect that the ultimate coach gifted me. And once I pulled myself back from that speed, and I slowed down to the speed of light, probably bigger things are happening in life. And now the ultimate experience, and now I'm talking to you.
You know what? I as you're speaking, at first I'm thinking for people watching, because I put myself back in like when I was just like struggling and striving and trying to make things happen and all that. And and thinking like there could be people watching right now saying, well, it must be nice to be you, because like, how do you get there? Because it's a journey. It's not like a switch that gets flipped. But still, if I were watching this and I was somebody, because I've been that somebody feeling like it must be nice to be you. And I've had that feeling even in the, like maybe the last 10 years or something. But then what's happening is you're not giving yourself even the slightest amount of credit for you being like a version of the infinite. It's sort of like the mantra I was saying, like, I am that which thou art, and thou art that which I am. And it's a feeling, right? It's a feeling you have. Like you said, when you catch yourself being in that achievement mode, you start, like, you realize, whoa, okay, I get it. Because trying, like, it's kind of like Sisyphus, like pushing the rock up the hill, and you just keep thinking, like, I'm a little farther up the hill, but it's a feeling that all of a sudden I understand that. I've had that, and it comes and goes sometimes, even still. Like, I'll be like, whoa, okay, there's so many things, that I have to do, and, and on my desk, or, and it's like, well, hold on a minute, back up and get back into that feeling. The stream is going down, and I'm not pushing against the stream. Is that what you have?
Becky. Yes, Becky. And it's so important in life, because over 4 decades of life, when I look back, it's like I've always wanted to run, and now I always want to be back home with my family, to make myself available to everybody around me, to make myself available to my own self. And this might be abstract for the few who listen, but this is so beautiful when you experience that. It cannot be defined, or probably cannot put them into words, but when you know it, you know it. And I would want to get back to the 2 words you used a little while ago: forgiveness and judgment. I would want to listen about your experience with your understanding of judgment and with your experience of forgiveness.
Those are 2 tricky things, right? Because the it's sort of like, I'm trying to remember the metaphor about when you have an issue with someone or something, and it's sort of like you're drinking your own poison, and it really feels that way. And for me, my biggest issue around forgiveness was realizing that I've always been capable. My fear was that I wasn't capable of taking care of myself by myself, but I've always been capable of that. So it's just a story that got stuck in my head somehow. Maybe it's like, I don't know, anything around you that comes in and absorbing someone else's story. So for me, the forgiveness part had to start inside of me, and realizing, like, wait a minute, my fear about not being capable. I mean, I've been capable since I was born. I mean, one of my stories that I was working on with Steve was about my mom. My mom left our family. She took off and went to Mexico for a few years. I found out recently, I saw a photograph. I'm going through some old things and cleaning up my storage, and I found pictures that she had taken of herself in Mexico with friends, and she had always written on the back of them, like, where it was and the year and everything. I realized, like, wow, she was gone for like 4 years, of when I was from 11 to whatever, 15, before I started driving while she was gone. And I remember that time being like, I look back at that, and I just kept on doing what I was doing, although I needed to raise myself, and I had a small brother, and my dad was heartbroken, and it was a rough time. But I started making up this story that Becky's had to take care of Becky her whole life. Okay, well, maybe that's true. Respect to the 2 things can be true at the same time. Yes, I did have to do that. I did, I raised myself. Well, yes, I did do that. And out of that, I felt like I hadn't been nurtured. And out of that, part of my document was that, wait a minute, I'm really good at nurturing people now. I mean, it's part of me. Like, yes, I took care of my brother. Yes, I took care of my dad. And now I'm a great nurturer of people. So one of the things in my document is that, you know, I nurture all humanity. And that is really real for me. Another thing that you said, I want to refer back to one thing you said about being with your family, because another thing in my document that I added to it later, it wasn't one of the first things, but it made me smile. And it says, this is the part where I appreciate this moment before it turns into a memory. I love that so much. Yeah, isn't that great? And
yes,
so
yes,
I've been living within that, and that helps with the judgment part, because I could be like, oh my gosh, you know, I was with my family in Albuquerque this past week, and it was busy and crazy, and I just was in the moment with little children and adults that wanted to talk, and, you know, being on an airplane with a woman who was like, you know, encroaching on my side of the seat with all of her belongings. And it's like, hold on, Becky, you know, this is a moment, appreciate this moment. You're sitting in a chair in the sky. You're going to go home. So that's part of the judgment part, is like, hold on, you know, if I'm in constant judgment of others, because, hey, we're all here on this planet for a reason. And can I tell you a quick story?
Yes.
A good friend of mine is Steve Hardison. He's top of mind for me. A good friend of mine is Deepak Chopra. And when his father died, and he was in India when he died, Deepak and his brother went to do all of the things that the family needs to make happen when someone dies. And he called me and said, I'd love to go to lunch with you and tell you about that experience. And the part that was the most memorable for me, and it sticks with me, is that after all of the procedures and all of that would be so hard for me, all of that was done. Then he and his brother went to the family temple, and the priest took out, I don't know if he said it, the book was this big, but it seemed to me like it might be. Like, and he said, and they opened this big book, and he had to, in all of those pages and pages, were all of his family members into ancestry. And he had to record the date of his father's death. And in that book, and he said, Becky, like, looking back through pages and pages and pages of people that were all people I'd never heard of for like a couple hundred years. He said, and I look back in that one, if that one person had turned right instead of left, or if that one person had missed the meeting, or that one person, none of us would be here. None of us would be here.
Absolutely.
And the idea of that we are all made to be here helps me with the judgment thing, because everybody's made to be here. Who do I get to judge? It should be her, shouldn't be, is worthy or not worthy, or is a horrible person, or, like I don't know everything of the great mystery of life while I'm still on the planet. Maybe I'll know it when I transcend, but I don't know it right now. How can I know what some person's story is, including mine? Have I been here many lifetimes before? I think so. I've also been told by the naughty readers in India that I loved, that this is my last time. So wow. So I have an urgency about life in the middle of this peaceful feeling about it too, which is just, I'm grateful for that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I would want to come back to this part of your declaration, about the moment and appreciating the moment. It sounds very good, and sometimes it sounds a fanciful thing, but also we tend to underestimate appreciating what is and loving what is. Appreciating, even if you aren't aware of the meaning of what's happening, And just this evening, I was, evening because it's in India. So just this evening, I had a fantastic conversation. And this guy, he read a small book I wrote about last year. And I don't know, I don't even know why I wrote this book. I just wanted to write this, and it's here. It's a very small book. It's a very, just, I think, probably 20-30 pages. Crack the creation code.
Oh.
And you won't believe. Yeah, I just wanted to write it. I wrote it. I wanted to gift this to everybody, and yeah, I'm doing. But he bought it. He bought it online, and he read it about 6 months ago, and he has been on and off, messaging me on WhatsApp. But it was only yesterday night at 11 p.m. around, he messaged me that, Ranjan, I want to talk to you. And I said, great, let's have a conversation. And we had this conversation this evening. And you won't believe, he's such a powerful creator. He had done so many things for others, which he has not done for himself. And when I just helped him go back inside, you won't believe how grateful he was for everything that happened in his life. And it's the same thing with me. In a rush through the moments, I missed many beautiful moments. But truly, the same thing I told him, clarity sometimes is a gift that you get in the hindsight. So don't wait for it. Just be there, appreciate it, and maybe the meaning will appear at the right time. And this is what has been happening for me. And Becky, it wouldn't be right, after so many times that we spoke about your work with Steve, for me to ask you about your experience of working with Steve and how has that impacted your life.
First of all, I love that. I want a copy of your book.
Yes, I'll send it to you, or probably I'll gift you when you come here.
Perfect. A couple things. One that the writer of the book about Steve, Alan Thompson, introduced me to a man in India. I'm not sure if he follows Steve or not, but I was watching a YouTube about that this guy did with another person, and it really spoke to me, because the discovery that this man made was that this guy had worked with Madonna, and he said, I have like 14,000 contacts of people that I know personally and can call them, and I can make anything happen in the world. He said, and I realized going through some processes with Kai Jordan that he said, I realized going through some things that I do everything for everybody else and I forget to include me in the equation. And I was thinking, that really struck a nerve with me for a second, because like, wow, I worked for almost a year on a big project with someone, and everything kind of, it dissipated, and I wasn't in the equation financially. I wasn't in the equation, although I did everything, and I could have been if I would have just asked. And right now I'm in the process of helping a man get his book published, which is a beautiful book it's called Greatness is a Choice. It's not published yet, but it will be, and I'm helping him with that. And I was like, so it struck me then, like, put myself in the equation again, like, we have an agreement, but it's not signed yet. Like, come on, Becky, like, speak up for yourself. So this involves Steve, because we're talking about selling. He said, why aren't you selling your original paintings? Well, my original paintings, I haven't sold any of my originals yet. They're like children. They're all around me in here. And they're, welcome to my studio. And this is my sanctuary, by the way, so I love that you're here. And so I started thinking about that, like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not promoting my art. I'm not doing anything like that. And yet my art is, it's divinely inspired. This really is actually a sanctuary. I'm rare that people come in here because it's an energy that's in here, and I haven't been putting myself into the equation of this needs the right to be out in people's homes, and even the originals. Many people that we all know they buy original paintings. So it's been an interesting thing for me, you know, working with Steve. It's like, Becky, like, believe in who you are. You forget, you know, who you are and what you've created in life. I mean, I could even say to you, for he said to me, like, Becky, if there was zero Becky, there would be zero Tony. If there was zero Tony, there would be zero, you know, the equation just keeps going. If there was zero Becky, there would be zero Jolie, Josh, and Tyler, my children. And if it was zero Becky, there wouldn't be those little ones. If it was zero, right? So it's like, that was the first day I spent with Steve Hardison, he was talking about that. And out of that, one of the phrases in my document in the very beginning was, I belong here. Because I felt like, you know, well, you know, I created that whole thing with, you know, the whole empire, with the global empire of personal development, but then I don't belong there. I don't belong. Where do I belong? Part of that is just because since I was a little kid, I have felt different. Like I'm different from everybody. I celebrate that now, but I sure didn't for a long time, feeling like, wow, you know, where do I belong? I'm just so different from everybody. And I think so many people feel that way. And I think especially now, you know, our world is so fractured, and we're picking sides. It's polarized. And in India, in here, everywhere, it's just, and I think it's all bubbling up so that it can all become more transparent and resolved somehow, but I feel it's bubbling up. And I think that, thank God I found Steve Hardison when I did, because the blessings are just profound, and the information is profound. Like my last session with him was about agreements and your word. And I feel like I keep my word. Like I don't lie. I don't say things that aren't, you know, that I'm not going to do. But when you really dig deep into it, it's a whole more elevated way of living your life, is creating agreements with people that, you know, they know and you know, so that nothing's out. In the middle of my session with him, he grabbed his phone. You know, you never know when he grabs his phone, like what's going to happen with that phone call. But he grabbed his phone, and I don't know who he was talking to, did not know. And he said, you know, hi, how are you doing? Am I bothering you? And the voice on the other end of the phone said, it was not on speaker, but I could kind of hear, like, no, is there something you need? And he said, no, I'm here with Becky. I'm doing a session with Becky, and I just have a question to ask you. Is there anything out with us? Like anything that I've promised you, like a trip to Bahamas or something that I have, or a grocery store item? Is there something that I haven't done that I agreed to do? And the voice on the other end of the phone said, no, I don't think there's anything, unless it's something we've both forgotten since we're getting older. And then he joked about that, you know, like, oh, we have to take care of each other since we're getting older. And he said, okay, honey. And he said, I love you. And she said, I love you. And it was Amy. I said, who was it? He said, it was my wife. I want to make sure that there's not one thing that I promise that I don't deliver on. And that has been a huge thing for me, because it's a recent thing. And it's beautiful already, because I'm like noticing things like, oh wow, I didn't make an actual agreement with this woman's son who's been helping me do some things, and I think he's probably expecting more, and I haven't said like, okay, this is exactly it, and here's the end date, and here's, you know, it's just living with that the most integrity you could possibly live with, and then keep on creating more integrity where that goes. I love that. That's what's going on right now, in addition to all the other amazing stuff.
That's so powerful, Becky.
Mm-hmm.
Becky, you were actively involved in business, and now you're actively involved in art, and now you're actively involved in being more of who you want to be. There's one area, the one area where everybody is, I feel, this is where people get stuck in. They have beautiful things to share with the world. They have beautiful things to create. They have very powerful stuff that world needs. But there is some deep, misunderstanding of expressing them to the world, or in a business language, to selling the idea or selling the product or selling something that can really change lives. What has been your experience with selling or the understanding of sales in business?
Well, I think you can't segregate business from real life. It's because I think it all comes together. I mean, in the sales world, I remember this phrase, it wasn't ours, it was borrowed from someone, which is accurate, which is, people buy with emotion and justify with logic. Well, where do they get the emotion? It has to come from you. So if you're not 1,000% behind what it is that you're selling, and maybe you are, but maybe you just haven't, you don't believe that you're capable, back to the capable thing, it's like, then people are going to get that message without you saying anything. So I think it's an inside out job. I mean, you have to so believe in what it is that you have. And if I had a really life altering sentence given to me by someone, the guy who started Heart Math. Heart Math is a remarkable technology where you are blending your heart waves, your EKG waves, and your brain waves, EEG waves, are usually they're like this. But if they are like on the same path, working in tandem with one another, you become superhuman. Like you become, and it's a practice that you do. It's a breathing in and out of your heart, and you do it for a few moments a day. It also causes you the ability to drop deep into meditation. I mean, I just feel like buzzy when I do it. I do it every morning. I'd like to do it every afternoon too. It's like, because it's just the benefits are remarkable, because your heart then begins to inform your brain, not the other way around. And when your heart is running your brain, which is real, I mean, it's a real phenomenon. They've measured it all over the world. When your heart is informing your brain, you're congruent with what it is that is important to you. People just get it. They just get it. But nobody's going to get it if you don't have it inside first. So that's one thing. And the guy that created that, his name is Doc Childra. And I had the blessing of being able to sit down with Doc. I'll tell you a funny thing in a few minutes, but I had the blessing of sitting down with Doc. And I said to him, this was many years ago, and it's still inside me. I haven't even activated this thing yet, and I'm going to. But I said, I want to write a book, and I haven't written the book yet. And something I really want to do is before art. And he said, that's a perfect example, Becky, of inverted ego. And I didn't know what he meant. And I was too embarrassed to ask him what it meant. But it's like, your ego is playing tricks with you. It's like, good, she doesn't, let's not let her write a book. Like she wants to write a book, so she thinks that the world will be better for the book that she's writing. But like, then let's play tricks on her. Like, then Becky's like, the world doesn't need another book. Like, look at all the bookstores. Like, who's going to benefit from the book? You know what? I benefit from doing the work. I benefit from the work. So it's like such an amazing thing. The funny part that I want to tell you is that I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to have a few conversations with Alan D. Thompson, the famous Alan D. Thompson.
Yeah.
And he's a wizard. And he helped me I asked him if he would be willing, and I supported him in an endeavor so that I felt like it was reciprocal, to put my document into an AI format, artificial intelligence format. And he did that for me. And in the process of us talking back and forth, it was really fun. And he said, I mentioned this thing that I just said to you. And he said, I actually wrote my doctoral thesis on heart math. Went, what? What are the chances of that? 7 billion people in the world, and that's the subject he chose, and I'm actually talking to him about it. So those are the kinds of things that happen, though, when you are your heart is informing your brain instead of the other way around. And it's a simple thing. It's like breathing, as if your heart was doing the breathing. You're just feeling deep into your heart, figure out what it is that makes you feel that way. Is it a pet you have, just whatever feelings of love and appreciation? Is it something in nature? And you start breathing, like deep breathing, like to the count of like 8 counts in and 8 counts out, as if it were your heart doing the breathing, and just stay there. Keep thinking of those kinds of things and stay there for however long you can. And I do it with my document. I'm reading my document to myself while I'm doing all that deep breathing. And then there's an apparatus you can buy that's a sensor that goes on, like one on your ear to measure your brain waves, and one that's like on your lapel. It's fantastic. But anyway, I do that, and that really helps me to get into a place where then if I need to, in business, if I need to figure out my business stuff, I'm already set for the day. And I'm coming from my heart right now with you, because I just finished doing my heart math a little while ago, and I'm just feeling so connected with you. And here we are on a piece of metal and whatever, all this stuff that goes into this apparatus and technology, and in real time talking with you, one of my most amazing favorite new friends on the other side of the planet, from my heart, and you too. And I mean, I could talk you into anything right now. Let me think, what should I talk you into? Anyway, that's my answer.
For the benefit of the audience or people who will be watching this, how can they get more information on heart math? And
it's they have a website, and it's like heart and math, MATH, like math, like arithmetic, heart math. You go on that, you can Google it, and you can get that on Amazon. You can buy the book Heart Math by Doc Childra. Yeah, the science behind it is spectacular. The things that are happening with heart math are spectacular. I mean, there's healing that's happening. They call it a global coherence project, where they're measuring the brain waves of the collective of people on the earth. And they did a study where in Washington, D.C., you may have heard of this, but they had, I don't even know, I think we're like 200 people meditating for an hour, and they had them all together meditating. That one, right, where the crime wave went way down, and I mean, all that kind of thing happens.
Yes, this reminds me. Yes. This reminds me, in 1998, I learned this meditation, Twin Hearts meditation, which is almost the same that you spoke about, heart math. And Twin Hearts meditation was very popular those days by the founder of pranic healing, Master Choa Kok Sui. And I was very young, but I still remember I practiced it for about 6 months, and that was very powerful. And this takes me back. Yes, he calls it twin heart, because when your heart starts informing your mind becomes your heart, and then there is a perfect alignment in your mind and your heart. Twin hearts.
And your heart has more, I want to be accurate. Your heart has more neurology than your brain. I want to say that properly, but regardless, I want to, the last thing about the business thing is, people called me the heart of the organization. And I'm proud of that, like when I was there doing that, because that gives you all of the ability to do all the things that you need to do with all the couple hundred employees at the time, and all the thousands of people that we met. That was where I came from, and that was why I was influential in that business. I'm sure of it.
Beautiful. And what reading? One last question about the book, because so that we don't leave it in ambiguity. Would reading the book be enough for someone to start?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Now, would reading the book be enough for someone to start practicing the heart mat meditation, or would they require to attend a workshop, or what is it like?
I think the book is great, and I think you can do it on your own. There's a woman that does workshops that I did a workshop with her for a while, and I'll send you her contact information so you can put it here. She's fantastic too, and I just got so much out of it. I think what I think is with anything is that you create a practice out of it. It's like brushing your teeth. Like it's my practice. That's what I do, and I am devoted to it because I'm seeing the clear benefit from it. And I like to learn and study stuff. And this woman said, like, how can I help you most in my next coaching call? And I said, tell me more science. I like the science part of it. Other people like, no, don't tell me the science. Just tell me what to do and what are the benefits from it. But so I can give you her information.
Sure. I would love to include that, in the description of this video.
Okay.
And Becky, towards almost the end of this conversation, I would like you to speak about what is the future you're creating now through your work and through who you are being. You have spoken enough about your past, about all the work that you're doing, about who you are being, and now I would love to listen about how who you are being is informing your future and creating your future.
Well, there's so many. Like I said, there's so many opportunities coming. A couple of those opportunities require me to be present. One of them is an online station with the Financial Television Network, which has stations all over the world, and they want me to be a contributor. And I said, they talk about crypto and metaverse and all of this. And I said, I don't think I fit into that. But what I could contribute is who you have to be in order to, because everybody that's doing metaverse and crypto and and all of that stuff, they're humans and they're people. So like, it's who are you being while you're doing what you're doing. So they want me to be a contributor and do a regular segment. So I'm talking with them about that today, and I'm including myself in the financial end of it because I want, that's what I'm learning now. Okay, include Becky in that. It's one thing. Another thing is my art. I want my art to be out in the world, and I would love for it to be. I've thought of India a lot because the spectacular textiles in India, the workmanship and the artisans of India, is how much I love India, and I've been there several times. So I would love to create my art into some textiles and some beautiful, handmade things that I would come and do business in India with. That's another one of my big things. And I am going to write a book. I'm thinking I'm working on a project with Alan actually to maybe have the book and my art morph into versions of artificial intelligence, using artificial intelligence to see what it could be created. Because that would be such a fun thing to do, something completely out of this world. And so that's another thing. And I'm an explorer, of the world. I want to see places that I haven't seen before while I'm, I don't know, like nature and things like that. I'm a scuba diver, and I love exploring this magnificent planet and I'm an outdoor girl. So, I love that. So that's really important to me to go to see some of these spectacular creations of the Almighty while I'm here on this planet. Those are some of the things. There's a long list, but those are some.
Beautiful. Becky, what would you tell, or what would you advise the business leaders? Many business leaders would want to know, the moment you speak about business, it's like, it has nothing to do with who you are, and it's more about systems and structures and all these things. How would, now with the kind of awareness that you have and about being, what would you talk about alignment between who you are being and the business that you're creating. How I would want you to speak about that.
When the friend of mine who wrote this book, Greatness is a Choice, asked me, he asked me to read part of it and then to give him my feedback, and I did. And then he said, Becky, I would love for you to be the CEO of this project and make it into a worldwide movement because you know how to do that. And I said, Ethan Penner is his name. You'll hear about him. I said, Ethan, I'm not qualified to do that. And I'm so busy on this other project. And he said, well, I disagree. I think you're the perfect person for this. So 2 weeks later, he asked me again, and I had time to think about it. I thought, here's the thing. I'm absolutely capable. Am I passionate about it? Because if I'm not passionate, it's the wrong business to be in. And I am passionate about it because it's all about, we have to do something to make this world better and this country better. Like right now, there's an urgency. So I think urgency is important. I think believing in your capability. And if you don't believe you have it, go get what you need to get it. Find somebody who can mentor you through the process. I think keeping your word, like being so full of integrity that there's nothing that can rattle your cage. I think those are some really important things. Like I remember Steve talking about, it's in the book, about a salesman who somebody said, you have to go out and get the money that this company is owed. And he said, I don't like doing that. And he said, well, then you don't have a job when you come back. And he said, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm obviously paraphrasing this whole thing, but he said, I'm not that kind of a person. He said, then don't be you, go be somebody else who has those capabilities. So, from the beginning, I didn't know how to create a global company. I just stepped in there because I was passionate about it, because I had integrity and a big heart for people. And also sometimes I got thrown into the deep end, like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Like being on stage was an example of that. And I remember okay, well, what's it going to take for me to be on stage? This is not about me. It's about who's in front of me right now. If don't have the capability of creating a listening out there, then there's no point for me to even be up here. But it wasn't an option. And I think that's another thing, is that don't give yourself a way to bow out. If you're passionate about it and you have integrity, and close that door, that escape hatch, because go for it and make it everything you want it to be and everything you first believed it could be, or get out of that business. That's what I would say, because that's what I do. And I'm still doing it with my art, with this opportunity, with this television station, with the opportunities that Alan and I are creating. Going forward, is you do it or don't do it, but don't play around in something. Life's too short. And there's an urgency right now, we all feel it. Like there's an urgency of doing what you need to do, that you can go out there and make things better. And I don't mean the urgency of like we were talking earlier of go get it, but like the feeling of it. Like, what is that feeling of absolute knowing that what you're doing is, you're the only one for the job. There's nobody could do it but you.
Yes, Becky. Can I share something which is very personal and I've never shared with anyone? And I never ever imagined in my life that I would get this opportunity to share with you, which might be very personal. And I don't know, first of all, do I have the permission?
Sure.
About 10 years ago, I was totally lost in life. But I had this feeling of knowing what I wanted to do and what was my purpose here on planet. And my family was broke. I was broke. We had no money, nothing. We were struggling for food. And I had a friend, a photographer. And I had a cousin who had this internet cafe, and he had lots of computers and internet. And I used to go there. I didn't have a job. And I just sit there. And once, while browsing, I saw a video, and that was Tony Robbins. But by then I knew whatever I'll be doing, it will be something like this. And I'm here to impact lives. And to make sure I head in this direction, I went back the next day and I searched because I didn't know anybody else so big, so I searched for his photograph. I downloaded the soft copy of Tony speaking on this big stage. I went back to my friend, the photographer, and I said, I want you to have his body and put my head in that place. And he did the editing, and I had Tony's body and my head. I had this big photograph. I brought it back home and I put that on the wall of my living room. I called my mom and dad and I said, Mom and Dad, believe you me, I'm here to impact millions. And I am going to do that. And I started my journey. And today I'm talking to the lady who was behind the success of such a big business of Tony, and who knows Tony more than anybody else in this world. I'm so honored.
Amazing.
I love this experience. I love being a good friend of yours today. And I love the fact that you are coming to India and your message is going to create ripples across the world. Looking forward to meeting you in the ultimate experience, Mumbai, India.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you so
one
much.
of a kind, my friend.
Thank you so much, Becky. I loved every bit of this conversation.
Me too. Thank you. It's phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Becky.
You have a wonderful sleep.
Yeah, my kids must be waiting for me, and I have to have my dinner with them. And I'm going to share everything that we spoke about with my family, with my dad and my kids. Love you so much, Becky.
I love you too. Thank you, Ranjan.
Thank you so much.